I think this one will be shorter. We did like an epic undertaking last night with 2 seasons of TV, which was a little.
That was crazy.
Which is crazy. But yeah, so today we are gathered around to talk about 1984's Repo Man. So I thought we would start as we usually do with kind of going around, introduce yourself, and then what is your relationship with Repo Man to date, if you've had any. So maybe this time we'll start with Lisa.
Cool. All right. Well, first I want to say Pablo Picasso is never called an asshole, but it's one of my favorite songs from that movie. It's such an epic soundtrack, and that's actually my connection with this movie. I thought I saw this movie when I was 13 years old, and maybe what I actually saw was called Custody of Strangers, because that had Emilio Estevez in it, but that's a terrifying film for a 13-year-old, and I was like, no, I don't want to see Repo Man again. Then I was like, I have to see Repo Man, husband of mine. Would you like to watch it with me? And so we did, and so we had a great time. It was a really, really fun movie. So I know that I would have loved this movie at 13. Science fiction, punk, comedy, what is there not to love, right? And it's a powerhouse combination of new romanticism and Duran Duran, and then punk, that I was all in all at the same time at this time in my life. So and the soundtrack was awesome. We all passed it around to everybody. We loved it. And the irony in the story would have gone completely over my head, but other than that, soundtrack, Suicidal Tendencies, Black Flag, Iggy Pop, it's all great. And the title sequence was amazing. So that's my connection with the movie. Not really, but kind of.
Yeah, cool. How about Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm Jeremy's wife. Okay. I can't believe I haven't seen this movie before, just because it hits a lot of things I'm interested in. I think I just love any movie where there's often a man exploring what it means to be a human in modern landscapes. That is my movies. I love all those movies. So I'm surprised I hadn't heard of it or seen it, but yeah, this was my first time seeing it, and I really liked it, and it actually inspired me to write about it, and get me thinking about things in a way I hadn't before. So yeah. Very
cool. You've got it. Well, and we get to the end. Maybe you can share your thing with the community. You got to see your essay.
Yeah.
Are you reporting bugs, Jeremy? It's that's the last thing I need on a Sunday.
Oh, sorry. I thought you wanted to know.
No, I do.
Party fouls. Shit.
I'm just kidding. Oh my God. There's no escape. Yes. How about Jeremy? Speaking of Jeremy.
Well, hi. My name is Jeremy from the old switcheroo.com retro gaming podcast and husband of Jackie. This movie always, I think, gets confused with Repo Men, which was a movie about stealing organs. It came out in 2015 or something, and then that in turn gets confused with my beloved Repo, the Genetic Opera, which that movie slaps. It's the first movie Jackie ever pretended to like for me. She said she liked it when we were dating, and then when we were married, she's like, actually, I think it's a piece of crap.
I mean, well, at the time, I was going to sit through Marvel movie after Marvel movie after Marvel movie. So I think when you were watch this weird movie with Paris Hilton, I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Wow.
So I had never known what I was expecting, something along those lines. I thought all 3 movies had similar plots of stolen body parts, and so when it was revealed to be this grungy 80s dark comedy kind of satire on us all, and especially on Los Angeles, I mean, we'll get into it, but I'm obsessed with this movie. It's a new fave, and I'm mad I didn't discover it earlier, and I thank you, Jackie, for picking it.
Yeah.
You said you picked it.
Yeah, I think it was I think at some point you were like, we should
you suggested it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, own it. How about Sarah? Yeah.
I feel like this movie, I've never seen it. This was my first watch. I also really enjoyed it. I'm surprised. It was not what I expected. The first surprise for me was Emilio Estevez. I was like, wait, what? I didn't know Emilio Estevez was this. That's my boy. I love Emilio Estevez.
Emilio!
I love an Emilio movie. So, in fact, I was rewatching Young Guns the other day because I was like, why are you watching this? I'm like, because I thought it was so good in the 90s. It didn't hold up that well. I feel like Young Guns 2 holds up a little better, but anyway, I feel like I mixed this movie up. Interestingly, not with the one Jeremy mentioned, but I feel like I always got this and Blade Runner confused in my head because they're like two movies that Kyle always wanted me to watch. Just like I filed them away under sci-fi movies that people are always asking me to watch. They're like, you haven't seen, huh? You haven't seen, huh? And it was one of those. So I just put it in that file and was kind of like, I probably won't like it. But I actually really did like it.
Wow. I don't think this was one of those ones that I do for you because I had only seen it for the first time last year or 2 years ago or something.
But Blade Runner is in that
Blade
category.
Runner.
I'm not saying it's your fault that I put Repo Man in that.
Yeah, it feels like it would be. It'd be really.
It feels of a piece.
Yeah.
It's strangely shares DNA, I think. Like there is some similarities.
Sure, yeah, like dystopian DNA kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it on my list forever too, having heard about it as a cult thing, but didn't know. And just like a couple years ago, just randomly watched it on a weekend and was like kind of fascinated by it. I don't know what to make of it. So I was excited to see it because it had been a while. But yeah, my experience with 80s Emilio is Men at Work, which is like one of my beloved. It's not good, but it's like my beloved, where him and Charlie Sheen, who are real life brothers, play garbage men together, and it's like, and then get into a bunch of shenanigans. That should be another one for the list for the future. Anyway, cool. So thank you for that. I thought we'd start. This is shorter this time, but some really kind of interesting, fun facts to run through. You notice how I've given up entirely on the slides. I'm just like, let's just roll with it. Perfect.
All good.
So some fun facts. So as you said, it's a 1984 American science fiction black comedy written and directed by Alex Cox. So this was his directorial debut. He also went on to do Sid and Nancy, about Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols. And then like not a whole lot after, like some random stuff, which we can get to, but this was his first one. His inspiration for the film came from his own experiences working with repossession agent Mark Lewis. Originally conceiving it as a road movie, he reconfigured the story to take place mostly in LA to maintain its budget. So they had no money. Like, well, let's do it there. The Repo Man's code is based on an amalgamation of wisdom given to Alex Cox when he was serving in real life as a Repo Man. This caught my eye right as it started, which is Michael Nesmith from the Monkees was one of the executive producers, which is completely random, which I found fascinating. And then, yeah, the soundtrack is obviously well regarded, like Lisa said, headlined by a main theme composed and performed by Iggy Pop. For the which is like for a kind of no budget movie, it's pretty interesting. And then he also did a sort of unofficial, not a sequel, but like kind of a sequel in 2009 called Repo Chick, that was done as one of his micro features, very low budget and very little theatrical, essentially direct to video. But that exists out there, and it's also about the repossession trade and a mysterious vehicle with a large reward. So yeah, that could be on the list too. And then this is interesting too. When filming began, they only had one 1964 Chevy Malibu, and it was stolen a couple days into filming.
No way!
Oh my God.
Forcing the crew to scramble to find a replacement. Shortly after they found a replacement, the original was recovered by the police undamaged. This was fortunate timing because about a day later, Fox Harris, who plays the guy with the two different color glasses, the crazy, severely damaged one of the Malibus by accidentally plowing it into a gasoline pump. In the car wash scene, one of the gas pumps is clearly severely dented up and damaged because of that. That's the from the previous take. And this is like, I think Jeremy will enjoy this. No special effects were used to make the Chevy Malibu glow while in the repossession lot. Instead, the car was completely coated with 3M reflective paint at an approximate price of $600 per bucket, which is really, really kind of wild. And then finally, the Agent Rogers, I think is her name, is supposed to have a cybernetic metallic arm, but the budget was so low they couldn't come up with a convincing prop arm, so it's nothing more than a glove made of metallic cloth. The cheap effect confused numerous viewers as to why they were so fascinated by the glove.
I was trying to figure that out. I was like, is she supposed to be crazy, or is this actually supposed to be her metal hand?
Yeah.
I'm so glad that answers that question.
But strangely enough, though, her amazing hat made the glove make
Yeah.
more
Oh.
sense.
Yeah.
You know what I meant? Like on its own, the glove would have been awful, but you get the glove and the hat. Now you got a
it's
stew
powerful.
going. Like,
But did anybody see that it looks like a Michael Jackson?
yes,
It did. It totally
Yeah.
did.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was completely inexplicable, which is great. All right, cool. So let's get into it now. Jump in. We'll do kind of this one is a very short opening because we have to react to it, but and everything else we'll just kind of go through as we do it. But we start in the Mojave Desert. A policeman pulls over a 1964 Chevy Malibu driven by J. Frank Parnell. The policeman opens the trunk, sees a flash of blinding white light, and instantly vaporizes, leaving only his boots behind. So just right off the bat, Jeremy, what was your take on that?
all right, you ready? Okay. Let me
Oh no! Wow!
let me get ready for this. Okay.
For those listening, Jeremy has crafted a generic beer bottle in the style.
Which did you? So this was a
Amazing.
thing in the early '80s.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
generic.
it was.
I thought it was for this movie, and I guess it was
No.
like, no,
No.
this was like very much a
Early
thing.
80s. I've seen it. Yeah.
About
Oh yeah, I
5
remember
years.
the white generic branding. Yeah.
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 Are you
I
happy
don't
with that,
remember
Daddy?
beer.
You like
but
that?
I don't remember generic beer, but I remember generic everything else with that looking like that.
So I posted on the stream team a tease of this shot. So the image button is totally working, Kyle, but I will click share screen instead, I think. Can you see the Google slide?
Let's see.
So
yes.
Yep.
So this is a screen grab of the trailer for the movie that came out in the 80s. And Lisa, do you notice what's weird about this?
No, not so much in that. Well, we don't really see. Do we see his skeleton when we see the movie?
No, in the film version, it's a flash of red and then a silhouette of his skeleton, and then he's gone.
Yeah. And then he's
But
gone. Right.
If you watch the trailer, it's this very elaborate animation shot of his skin cindering and then being replaced with a cartoon skeleton. It looks really cool. So, like, I'm like, did they put more work into the trailer than the movie? Because it usually is.
Yeah.
You know,
or maybe it was good enough for a couple frames of the trailer and they ran out of money or something. Who knows?
But if they already created it, wouldn't they just put it in the movie? Like, because the trailer came out first, obviously. But so I love the opening shot. I love the whole MacGuffin of the trunk, and I love the whole movie. Characters are thinking about opening this trunk, and you're like, Kevin, don't do it. No, Kevin. Oh, that guy should open the trunk. I don't care if that guy opens the trunk. But it's just such a fun little tension moment that is simultaneously really silly, but also kind of terrifying. So I love any movie that grabs you within the first 5 minutes like that. Like, okay, I don't know what just happened, but I am not going to leave until I figure it out. So loved it.
How about Sarah?
Well, I feel like Pulp Fiction owes their little
for the briefcase.
things.
For sure.
It's for sure. And I don't have too much else to say about that opening sequence, but did you notice how the Highway 66 kept changed to like Highway 666?
I didn't
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Which I thought there was a lot of religious imagery, of course, and a lot of religious stuff in here. So, of course, I'm excited to talk about that.
How about Lisa?
Well, I love the special effects. It's like, it's very, very punk for them to be like, screw this, we're not doing anything modern. Literally, Terminator came out the same year with I think nearly the same budget and really good special effects for that time, right? But they're like, no way, we're just gonna do the stuff that they did in the 50s and the 60s. You have a flash and you cut and then it's like nothing, right? And I loved it. I was like, that's so great. Shoestring budget. Yeah, I'm like, it's the way to go for this, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about that moment.
How about Jackie?
Yeah, I also love the special effects. Lately I've just been, well, not even lately, like I've been drawn to 70s, 80s movies, sci-fi horror, because something about like modern horror sci-fi movies and their attempts to make it so real, it just feels hollow to me.
Yeah.
And for some reason, these types of special effects just are way more impactful for me. And also, I love the man driving the car. It immediately felt very like Lynchian to me. The character in Twin Peaks I was showing Kyle earlier with like glasses and different colored lenses, and it reminded me of that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just like the immediate like off-kilterness of it. Like you have no idea what's going to be, and it's like, okay, it's going to be something weird and sci-fi with crappy effects. Like buckle up, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And it was
Yeah.
Mad Max immediately.
oh yeah, definitely.
Oh
Mad
yeah,
Max.
for sure.
First
Desert.
one, really. Yeah.
I wanted to add one more thing too. I think the X-Files also owes a lot. Like,
Yep.
I feel like a lot of X-Files were focused on this idea, like, of weird aliens or technology being on trains, in cars, in trucks, and the idea that like you would just pass these cars on like a rural highway and not know like what's inside them, I think is visited over and over again in the X-Files. And I think it might owe something to this Chevy Malibu kind of holding this like secret. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Automatics, which I just realized his name is Automatics, first of all. As I'm reading that. Okay, a young punk rocker in LA is fired from his job as a supermarket stock clerk. His girlfriend leaves him for his best friend. Depressed and broke, Otto's wandering the streets when a man named Bud drives up and offers him $25 to drive a car to the neighborhood, supposedly for his wife. Otto follows Bud into the car to the Helping Hand Acceptance Corporation, where he learns the car he drove was being repossessed. He refuses to join Bud as a repo man and goes to see his parents. After learning his burned out ex-hippie parents have donated the money he promised to reward them, or they promised to reward him for graduating from college to a televangelist, he decides to take the repo job. So how about Lisa? I want to start with your take on this.
Yeah. So I found this very interesting. Sorry, Jackie or Sarah, was it you talking about a man trying to find himself, right? Yeah, a young man trying to find himself. Yeah, there you go. So what my husband and I observed was that he's not real to anyone. Doesn't really seem like he's seen or he is real to anyone. He's young, he's naive, but he seems not to care very much, except when you shoot somebody with a gun. Obviously, he has some moral compass, right? And so he's looking everywhere. You know, he tries to hold a job, can't hold a job, even though that was like ridiculous. You're not paying attention. And I was like, what? We're just like, oh my gosh, get me out of there. And then, you know, his girl taking up with another guy. I love that punk girl, by the way. I totally wanted to be her, totally. And then what else happened? Oh yeah, goes home, and his parents are like hypnotized by this preacher, and he's like, everywhere he goes, he can't cut a break. And so he's like, all right, I'll do this thing. They saw me when I poured the beer on the ground, right? They're like, you are cool, right? So there you go. I loved this part where he's like searching. Okay, good. I found something. I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to see if I can do it well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, I wasn't interrupting you. I was blown away by Jeremy's new. Oh my God! All right.
Can I jump in on the
ahead.
parents? Because, like, first of all, I thought it was so funny that they were so transfixed by the television.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, it's like, oh, Emilio Estevez, he's the lost one. But it's like they're lost. They're just lost in the screen. But then it also kind of, like, gave me a bit of a chill at the end when, at the end, they're all looking for the Malibu. Even the televangelists are talking about trying to find the Chevy Malibu. Right. And it's like, oh, this movie is kind of flippant about conspiracy, but also like it kind of does seed these little, you know, suggestions throughout the plot. And I mean, I don't know if you're going to get into detail later, Kyle, but I just loved all the different characters of the Repo lot. I loved the security guard who's like anything but. I really loved Light. I loved is it Marlene is the one who's secretly the revolutionary.
Yeah.
Like there's just something so appealing about a ragtag group of like working class people, and it's like I'm in, even if they're doing questionable things, I'm in because they're the underdogs. So yeah,
Nice.
Absolutely.
loved them.
How about Sarah?
I loved the parent scene a lot too. There was a scene before it where he was also like walking down the street and he was mad. I can't remember why he was mad. Something to do with his friends, and he was like yelling, "Monday Night Football, the Jeffersons!" Like he was yelling out all these like American like media like touchstones types of things. So I thought it was like sort of like him rejecting like American culture or mainstream culture, or just like searching for some kind of meaning, kind of like you were saying, Jackie, like looking for himself. And then oh, by the way, I loved his TikTok boy cross earring.
I
was like, boys nowadays. I'm like,
let's come back around.
He's so young and so good looking in this movie. It's crazy.
Oh, I know, he's so cute.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, he looks younger probably than I've ever seen him. I think every other movie I've seen him in, he was older. What'd you say, Jackie?
He was 21.
21.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So this is probably like the youngest I've seen him. But like that scene with the parents, I thought it was really cool. They said like the preacher said something about we're fighting communism abroad and liberal humanism within, something like that. And I was like, it's just so interesting to me that the attacks of the religious right haven't changed much in like 50 years. I'm like, this is kind of insane. Like it's the same things that they're saying. And then I also thought like this scene was to kind of show us that I feel like this movie was very cynical about money and materialism. When did this movie come out?
84.
Oh, 84, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought it was maybe a little bit later 80s, because I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe they're reacting to like the materialism of the 80s. But I mean, maybe not. I guess Jimmy Carter talked about materialism a lot, and that was like in the 70s. So obviously it was like a concern. But like in that scene in particular, I thought it was to kind of show us that the church is just another business, because it's like the parents give their money that they were supposed to use for his school to the church, and they convince them to do that. And I forget what the mom says. She thinks that she's going to get something out of it. And I don't remember. Maybe one of you guys can remember what she said.
All I remember is they're on the Chariots of Fire list.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, other than heaven, maybe it was just, maybe it was just the great roll call of heaven. But yeah, so I really liked that, because I just thought it, I guess I just thought it showed that you have this kid looking for something, and he actually goes to his parents for help and then doesn't get it. And they're completely zombified. And it's a really nice contrast later to all the relationships he have, which are almost like father-son, with all these different repo men who are like really kind of guiding him and being these father figures for him, whereas his own parents are totally checked out. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny because like this movie, we talked about how it's like very prescient and it's very relevant, and like, babe, the generic food.
Oh my God.
It's
food.
The food, beer, like cans, like food, chicken flavor or whatever. And it's like Jackie and I experimented with a food delivery service called Factor, and it's generic blank labels. And it's funny because the instructions, they come in these little TV dinner things, and the instructions say at the end of every Factor instruction, no matter what the meal is, remove from, put on the plate and enjoy. Like, I'm not freaking putting it on a plate. And then he's eating the food, and the mom goes, put it on a plate, son. You'll enjoy it more. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I really hope whoever wrote this movie is still alive and proud that they called it.
Did Alex write it too, or just direct it?
It says he wrote it too. Yeah. I think maybe with somebody else, but yeah. My only notes too
Some-
were, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jackie. Yeah.
It's okay. I just wanted to add to what Jeremy was
Yeah.
saying about like the generic food, because I also thought it was interesting they were singing the 7-Up.
Yeah, the
Feeling
jingle.
7
Yeah.
Up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that was like the one brand in the movie, and they were
That's
like
true,
singing
yeah.
about it. And then while like stacking cans that just said corn. So I immediately noticed like this strong symbolism and this can motif. He's like kicking cans. There's these generic cans everywhere, which felt very like, are we like stripping away this sort of American individualism? You know, like and there's this whole like, I feel like a lot of men in the movie romanticize the past where like men could be individuals, and they mention John Wayne, and they like,
Right.
I don't know. There's this interesting like connection between like brands and like capitalism, but like that being taken away with these like very sort of like socialist adjacent, just like food. And is that like anti-American? But I also liked what Sarah was saying. I think it's just so interesting. I felt like he was just seeing everyone around him like searching for meaning, but like while they were doing that, they were just being exploited from some larger like source, whether it's Scientology or Christianity or like whatever. It's just like there's some external source not really providing them with meaning, but exploiting their need. And that was like so relatable, because I just see that now with so many people, whether they turn to like Andrew Tate or they turn to whoever. It's like these people aren't actually like giving you the meaning you want. They're just exploiting that need for their own profit.
Yeah.
But and I also really liked immediately Bud. Like I found him so like, they say there's this like male loneliness epidemic, whatever, but like him immediately saying like not many people got a code to live by anymore. Like all the codes and all the structures he'd sort of like taken as meaning in his life, he's seeing that being like disintegrated, and now where does he find that again? And I think that's like really like that's still such a like big part of our like consciousness today.
Yeah. And also his comment about, I don't know a Repo Man who doesn't do speed, because they work these crazy late nights, so they're just always snorting something, and it's like they're destroying themselves, you know. And that kind of, babe, I think kind of ties into what you had said and kind of connects with this idea of like sort of the suffering man, but it's also kind of trying to romanticize it, but it's also really sad. Yeah, I also liked Bud a lot.
Well, it's also like you were the hero, like for so many years. It's like you were the hero, and when that's taken away from you and you're, you know, not that anymore, how can you find your identity again?
And they all got so incensed when the guy said that John Wayne, I mean, I won't say the slur he said, but when he said John Wayne was gay, because I worked at his house and he showed up to in a door in a dress. That doesn't mean he's gay. He just likes to dress up as a woman, you know? And it's just like, okay, strangely open-minded toxic masculinity. Okay. But I just love even side characters who are just jokes are like layered like that. And we'll get to that, especially at the end.
That's Miller.
Yeah, definitely Miller. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, this was like one of the first. There's so many just completely random non sequitur style lines throughout the movie that I love. But like when he was about to have sex with a girl at the party, and he said, "Excuse me while I fold my pants," and then went to fold his pants in real time, was like amazing to me. And then also what'd you say? Sorry.
I said I loved that too.
Yeah, and then when he went out of the room for like a minute and comes back and he's getting tucked by Duke. That was my note, which was amazing. And then yes, I also wrote down why are they yelling all the names of TV shows randomly for like a solid minute, which was amazing.
Hey, I thought the folding the pants was like this, like, let me get this little semblance of order.
Okay, yeah, could be.
I got something I had control over.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Classy.
Okay, next set. After repossessing a flashy red Cadillac, Otto sees a woman named Layla running down the street. He gives her a ride to her workplace, the United Fruitcake Outlet, or UFO. On the way, she shows him pictures of aliens she says are in the trunk of a Chevy Malibu. She says they are dangerous due to the radiation they emit. Meanwhile, Helping Hands offering $20,000 for the Malibu. Most assume the repossession is drug-related because the bounty is far above the actual value of the car. So how about we start with Sarah on this part?
Okay, so my notes on this section, I'm not sure how far we're going here, but I did want to go back to the code real quick because I thought it was interesting that the Repo Man code only protects property.
Right.
Yet another capitalist, because wasn't it like, I shall not harm property, or I shall not stand by while property is harmed, basically? I think that's basically the code, which and the way they even phrased it, like the 10 Commandments, I thought it was a very deliberate choice. And again, you're connecting religion with capitalism, saying like, this is just a business, kind of going into that idea, like Jackie mentioned about like, all of these people are just exploiting you. You know, but I like how the other driver had that rule too. I love that moment when he's like, everybody wears a seatbelt in my car.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I liked that for some reason. I just thought it was neat how they all had rules and they all were really free with their advice. And I really liked the relationship between Emilio and the other drivers. But then he started pushing, and then Jackie mentioned Scientology, which obviously the book
light,
it didn't sound, it wasn't Dianetics, but it sounded
it was
like
diuretics. Yeah.
Diuretics. So obviously he was like a Scientologist, I guess. I want to talk about one throwaway line that I thought was hilarious, which is the boss who just like chugs beer all the time. He's like, I'm going out. And you just hear Marlene in the background go, why? Are we out of beer? Which I was like, yeah, Marlene. It was such a nice little shade. And then I don't know Kyle, if your summary went past the weird plate of shrimp monologue.
No, that's right where I am on this too. Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be a whole.
There? Are we going to talk about that later?
No, jump in now. That's the time. Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea what was going on, but I just loved everything he said because it made no sense, but it kind of did make sense because he talked about the plate of shrimp, but you don't get it. It was something like they show it to you, or they say it's a plate of shrimp, but you don't get it. And like, you shouldn't even bother looking for it. And I thought it was like interesting just because, again, they were singing commercials. The brands are all generic. There's something going on here with like, I don't know, capitalism and advertising and messages and like you not getting what you pay for, not getting what's advertised, that I thought he was kind of, even though it sounded like the stuff he was saying was like raving mad, that's kind of how I connected it. I was like, actually what he said kind of made sense through that lens.
Yeah, he called it the lattice of coincidence.
Ooh,
and like,
I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lattice of coincidence that overlays everything. And it's just moments. It was like, this movie is poetry at moments. What the hell is happening? But I was curious if Jackie had any thoughts on that, because I believe that character, Miller, let's call him mentally troubled Repo Man mechanic, right? Yeah. I think he's the one who inspired your essay, right, babe? And like the moment this movie's over, Jackie hits the keys and writes like a 4-page essay that I can't wait to read.
I think I had more to say to him about the end.
Okay. Yeah, because he plays a major role in the end. But so I just, before you go to the next part, Kyle, I have to give a shout out to Rake Lady. The one, because on one of his first repossession, when he sees Layla jogging, he runs into her trash, and there's a whole like prolonged discussion about pick up the trash, like you knocked it over. Fuck that, I'm not picking up your trash. And then like an hour later in the movie, she's still telling people about how he wouldn't pick up her trash. And it reminded me, Sarah, of Lost Highway and the rant about tailgating,
right? Yeah.
And there's just something really appealing about this like threatening, nightmarish setting and people who are desperately holding on to some kind of like social contract. You kind of admire it. Because that's all of us at this point, right? That was douchey. That was douchey, Sarah. Come on, Sarah. Keep it classy. Okay.
There's our clip. Yeah. Cool. Did you already go, Lisa? I forgot. Did you talk about this part?
No, I didn't. I have just a little bit to say about this part. It's kind of melded with the first part, which is, first of all, the scene with Layla. I was like, was this a thing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where you just pull up to somebody like, hey, want to ride? And they like jump in the car with you?
Yeah.
What? I was like, okay, and then all of a sudden she's pulling out the stuff about the aliens and showing him. And the smile, did everybody notice all the smiley face pins? He actually has one later on, and it's like, okay. So, but I kind of, and I kind of felt that there was a lot of an undercurrent of a backlash. Let me see my notes here. Backlash of like the hippieism in the 70s and even communism, and to also Christianity as well. And oh my God, I'm missing in my notes. My notes are totally out of order. So that's kind of, but at the same time, so there's that backlash against all those structures. But at the same time, everybody is kind of a philosopher in their own right, in their own mind. As you pick each one individually, they have their own philosophy and they have their own guidance. And I liked that too. But I also loved the thing between Bud and Otto in the beginning. Bud goes, oh, credit. There's a big backlash against credit too. Credit is a sacred trust.
Right.
It's what our free society is founded on. They give a damn about bills in Russia. I said, do you think they give a damn about bills in Russia? They don't pay bills in Russia. It's all free. Communism. So he's like, free my ass. Were you fucking commie? He's like, I ain't no commie. And he's like, well, you better not be. I don't know commies in my car. No Christians either. I was just kind of like, okay, commies and Christians. So I just very kind of backlashing them, but they all are philosophers, about whatever is important to them, so that's what I like about it.
Yeah. Jackie, do you have anything else on this part?
Were we introduced to his friends at this time?
Which friends?
The
Duke,
punks?
the one.
Oh,
Duke, Deb, and Archie, I think.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I have them in my notes, but yeah, bring them up. Talk about them. Yeah.
Love them.
Well, I do really love what Lisa was saying about the happy face pins and these just like very, very like obvious artificial like symbols of like happiness. In a society where like we're seeing like crime on the rise, economic inequality and all that. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, okay. I'm just gonna say it. But I think one of his friends is gay. Because there were like a lot of like immediately when Duke sees Otto, he like grabs him and like they mosh together. And then there's other moments where like he like touches him, but it's in this like doing it out of anger, but are you really, or are you just lashing out and like doing these like things to touch another man and then like stifling your own sexuality? And there was a moment where he like, I don't know if he mentioned Otto's peach fuzz or looked at his peach fuzz, but he was like lingering at his peach fuzz for a long time. And I don't know, I just thought it was interesting considering like the time period of like how he's, because of maybe his identity issues, how he also romanticized, like he talked to the woman he would do drugs with, like, we could get married, we could have kids, like, why are you jumping to that so quickly? Like, you're kind of grasping onto that in denial of your own sexuality. But I know this might be a stretch, but I was just thinking about that, and it it read true to me as I was like watching it.
Yeah. I think you're completely supposed to read that way. Like when she's like, oh, he's like,
right.
oh, we could get married, and she's like, what? Like she's laughing like as if like, no, like you're clearly gay. I'm not gonna marry you. And it's like, why do you want kids? Oh, they say you're supposed to do that, and it's like,
Right.
yeah,
It's what
Right.
everybody does. Because I read
Yeah.
it,
but
and I was
I
like,
do.
oh, he's like a conformist. But I
But
love
if I,
to read that he's in the closet, and that's why
yeah,
he's conforming.
yeah. Well, it's also interesting too because he was super into the robot hand. He's the one who like licked it.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. I was like,
Right.
whoa.
Yeah. But I love this little cast of side characters because they're the inept criminals, which is always a fun
It's great.
Sarah loves
character.
a dumb
Let's go
hand.
do some crimes. Yeah, let's go get sushi and not pay.
That's right. But like I think so I was getting into a YouTube argument with somebody about like crime because there's this perception right now in 2025 that crime is on the rise, and it's not true.
No.
Nationwide for years violent crime has been on the downturn.
That's right.
And criminals are being used as this excuse to do really horrible things.
Mhm.
And so I kind of like that, the criminals in this movie are not the real threat.
Right.
They're bumbling, they're lost themselves. It's almost laughable, and yeah, it does end violently for them, but even that is sort of a Looney Toony kind of way.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
it's such an easy joke. I'm sorry, but I love the inept criminals in the robbery scene where like, don't say my name, Kyle. Shut up, Todd. And it's like it's such a banger of a joke every time. I'm such a cheap date. I loved it. And his bag falls off the bag. Oh yeah, and one of the three is not disguising their identity. So it's like, what are we doing? So good, so funny.
I put in, this is another great, I just like the line when Michael Jackson lady's trying to explain what's going on, she says people just explode, natural causes.
Yeah.
Which was good. And then also like to Jackie's point about how he folded his pants, but then he lost control because he got cucked by the other guy. Now that he's got a car, within like 2 minutes he bangs that girl in the back of the car.
That's right.
So now he's back in control with his new job and stuff, which I thought was interesting.
Masculinity.
Yeah, reclaim, exactly. And then yes, I also love the repo. I want to get like the repo code printed out as like a shirt.
I know, it's a good one.
Cool. Okay, so next scene, we're actually coming in on the end here. Parnell arrives in LA driving the Malibu, but he cannot meet his waiting UFO compatriots because of a team of government agents led by a woman with a metal hand. When he pulls into a gas station, Helping Hand's competitors, the Rodriguez brothers, take the Malibu. They stop for sodas because the car's trunk is hot. When they're out of the car, a trio of Otto's punk friends who are on a crime spree. So, Jeremy, thoughts on that part?
Just the whole, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the old Barbara Streisand comedy, What's Up, Doc? That was a big movie in the Strauss family. And there's this ongoing joke of like briefcases getting stolen and swapped around. And, the constant, okay, the Malibu gets repossessed, then it gets carjacked, then it gets just lost. And I think it's just such a fun story concept. And this will come up, I think, in the end, but when you're first introduced to the Rodriguez brothers, who I guess are antagonists, they're like rival repo men, but they're also working with the revolutionaries, right? They're working with Marlene and her little like kind of Che Guevara inspired revolution, but they're driving through the wash. They're driving through like the dry reservoir, right?
Yeah.
Which has always been a fantasy of mine. And then I saw Grease, right? Was it shot in the same place as Grease?
I think so.
Could be.
Because they even do
It's
the
the
going up.
the LA River. That's what they call it, right?
Yeah. Or they go up on the walls, and I'm like, this is very grease coated. And then we'll get to it at the end, but the end is also very grease coated.
It is.
Talking about you got that too, Lisa?
That's actually true. I didn't think about that.
I was like, what's with the weird grease connections in this movie? But I don't know. It's just like normally when movies have these weird little like, what the hell was that? It's frustrating, but in a dark comedy, it just works. It's so good.
How about Jackie?
I'm honestly not really sure what part we're talking about.
Yeah.
What part?
As am I, because it kind of blends together. We were just talking about the part where he comes into
The
town.
car,
with
the Malibu,
Rodriguez
yeah.
brothers steal it, and then the punk friends
Oh.
open the trunk, and then that situation.
Oh, well, I will say, like, something I thought was really interesting in this movie is like how, like, easy it was to steal a car.
Yep.
And how it was just like everyone, like, there was so much of like everyone stealing a car that was already stolen, and then they're just stealing another car, and it was like I loved how this movie portrayed this sort of like free for all. I just thought that was really, really interesting because it's so not what I think like we experience today. Another thing I wanted to mention, I'm not sure if this is the part, is the like just how ineffective government is portrayed to be in this movie, because there's all those like signs of, I think, like there's one political like official that they're like advertising.
Harry Chase was the name.
Harry Chase. And I loved how that was just like in the background of all these crimes being committed, and no one knows who that is or what he does, or and how detached he is from what's actually going on in the city. But yeah, I thought that was like very, very relevant.
Lots of government, pseudo government, like this group of guys that are chasing the Malibu, but also picking up dead winos on the sidewalk in these big hazmat suits.
Oh, right.
And I'm just and I'm like, holy crud, what the heck? You know, and even, sorry, skip forward. They light what's his face on fire.
Right.
And I was like, what? But then I'm like, okay, well, he is totally radioactive and very dangerous, you know. So I was just like, but I didn't know they would handle it right there on the sidewalk.
But the government agents, the cleaners, I guess we'll call them, they narrate everything they're doing.
Right.
They go,
thank you.
I'm carrying the body, and I think he feels like he's still alive. He's a little warm. And I think it's because, you know, when you're like working for the government, you have to keep these logs. You know, that was back in the 80s, you recorded everything on cassettes, and that was like, you know, when you were running experiments, you'd verbally say what's happening, right? That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was to show us how like bumbling they were.
Yes, that too.
And they all looked like Ken dolls. They all looked like Ken dolls with aviator shades.
Kyle, are we going to talk at all about like the sort of race dynamics? Because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Because like I'm referring to like the black characters, right? Because what's interesting is that all the Repo men are very heartless and get in, get out. But the one person who he tries to give extra time to is this black grandma. And it's the only person he's actually having a conversation with. And it's interesting because he's giving her extra time to get the money. He hasn't done that for anybody else.
No.
We've never seen any other Repo Man do that. And so it's like, okay, he's like kind of showing some compassion in this moment. And then all her black sons come in, and now it's like the stereotype of, oh, a bunch of black guys, I'm scared now. And then they jump him. And so I'm like, well,
only because he tries to steal a car.
Well, but
he was always going to trick her and like still steal the car.
You think so?
He heard them say, she said to her son, I gave you that money. You didn't make the payment. What did you do with it? And that's when he decided to get in the car and try it. But they have the genius thing of having the back wheels on jacks.
Oh,
so you can't actually drive off the car.
So he actually wasn't being compassionate. He was playing her.
Well, maybe in the beginning he was trying to, but then he heard her say through the window that, you know, I was going to pay for that, but then you took the money someplace else. So
yeah. So I was trying to figure out like, and maybe it's not making a statement, but I was like, is there making any kind of statement about race in this movie? And then the image that I think has burned in my mind is towards the end of the movie when one of Otto's last jobs goes awry and he's getting shot at, and Light pulls up, and he's you know the black main character, I would say, one of the other Repo mentors, and he just stands tall and is just blasting into the house as Otto cowers in fear. And he's just fearlessly standing there, and it's this very interesting, like,
and that's when he's like, you can't shoot him, don't kill him, you know, like that kind of.
And then Light's like, oh, they're blanks, you know, and so it's like this
Right.
perceived threat. It's just a perceived threat, but that can
Right.
be powerful. And I was just like, this movie is so smart for being this ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen a movie so crazy and so smart at the same time. I'm obsessed.
Anything, Sarah, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I honestly, I got very lost at this point in the movie with the different groups of people, because there was like the UFO nuts that Marlene was with. But yes, I also noticed there was a group of revolutionaries, but I didn't understand how they were connected to anything. I don't think Marlene was with them, was she?
No,
With
not
the
with the
revolutionary?
UFO.
No, they were like revolutionaries. They were the
Not with
UFO nuts,
Layla's.
and there were what you guys are calling the government officials. I actually thought they were aliens because of the weird way they were talking.
Oh.
I didn't get that they were.
Oh, interesting.
But at the
That's
end,
interesting,
then I was
yeah.
like, oh, I guess they
Yeah.
must have supposedly been government. But I actually thought they were aliens, which is why they couldn't do human speech, which is why they were like
Oh,
oddly narrating.
Right.
So I was really lost at this part, and I also didn't understand who kept raising the money on the Malibu and for what purpose, because the money kept going up, but who was funding that? Maybe we're not supposed to know. Maybe it was Harry,
Harry Chase.
politician. Maybe it was a politician. We don't know. Maybe we're not supposed to know. But I did want to talk a little bit about the poverty, and I like in this movie, because I kind of thought, like going back to that scene, Jeremy, that you mentioned, I actually thought he was being kind to her and was actually going to give her more time. There were several other times where Emilio showed a different, more kind, more of a caring attitude toward this community than the other Repo Men, which gave me the feel, and maybe the other Repo Men were also supposed to be poor, but I got the sense that Emilio was more part of that community, that like poor East Los Angeles community that can only afford this generic food, right? Like all the generics are because they can't afford the name brands, you know? And there was a song, I don't remember why there was a band, but there was like a song playing in the background of one of the scenes, and it was like, oh, we're just getting by, we're just getting by. Like it was about kind of like being poor. And I really like how Emilio Estevez was kind of like, and remember, he didn't want to be a Repo Man too at the beginning. He
didn't want to.
He's like, I'm not going to be a Repo Man. It's kind of like the code of like the wrong side of the tracks, right? It's like you don't help out the Repo Man.
Right.
So I kind of liked that. You could see that he's like, no, this is like these are like my people that I'm now stealing from, and that he's conflicted about that.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with Sarah. Like he felt kind of pure.
Yeah, yeah.
He did.
He felt like kind of pure, and I loved the line where I think he was talking to Duke, and he said, "That's bullshit. You're a white suburban punk just like me."
That's right.
Like he like checks his privilege, like he understands.
That's
like,
when Duke died. Yeah.
Yeah, his like lashing out and like rebellion was kind of performance compared to the, like Sarah was saying, like people in poverty are struggling even more than him, even though he is poor as well. But yeah, maybe he was trying to help that woman, now that I think about it.
I mean, I think that does make more sense.
Yeah.
You know, and I could even see the movie being deep enough that it's like the brothers, or not the, well, I guess they're all brothers, but the children of the woman, you know, saw him as a threat because of how they've been wronged in the past, you know what I mean? And so they attacked him, not because of him, but because of who he represented.
And I don't even think Emilio was mad at him. I honestly got the sense that in that scene that he was kind of like, I'm the Repo Man. Like,
right.
And
then at the end of the movie, when the other Repo Men see that he's been harmed, and they're like, we can't let a person harm a Repo Man. We got to go F them up. He does not turn in the black family. He directs them to his a-hole former boss of the Quickie Mart. And so, you know, I guess, guys, is this movie a freaking 10? Are we going to 10 on this one?
Wow.
Because like, Emilio he's adapting his own code. You know what I mean? And aren't we all, at the end of the day?
Wow.
I like how you said he was adapting his own code. It's interesting. I feel like he's very pure and he's being exposed to all these groups around him that have already been sort of like calcified in their belief system. And he's trying to figure out like where he fits in that while maintaining a sense of like morality.
Yeah. There was a line too somewhere nearish the end where someone said no one is innocent. I don't know if you guys remember that line or who said it.
I don't.
I wrote it down.
Was Metalhead.
Layla says it. What if he's innocent? And then Agent Rogers says no one is innocent.
Right.
So that's the government side of it. Yeah, because Layla starts to work with the government, right? And I didn't really understand that at all. She was kidnapped by them, and then she starts working for them and torturing Otto, which I was like, I know I'm skipping forward. Sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I was so confused.
Yeah. There. Was it like the junkyard scene or whatever where they had the two Ottos where we saw the other guy's named Otto as well. I forget.
Yeah,
but
he is.
The line there, I was killing people and you're still swimming around in your father's balls was
right
as well as the dude, I forget which guy who he's swinging from a liquor bottle in one hand and a can of beer in the other simultaneously. Like an incredible look. So I like that when all the Repo guys were around, as well as the guy with the mohawk of the trio bringing a full-on shotgun into a club, like not trying to smuggle a gun in, but just it's amazing. Okay, so final two segments here. After visiting a nightclub, Parnell appears and tricks the punks into opening his trunk, killing one of them and scaring the other two away. Later, he picks up Otto and drives aimlessly before collapsing and dying from radiation. After surviving a convenience store shootout with the punks that leaves Bud wounded and Punk Duke dead, Otto takes the Malibu back to Helping Hand and leaves it in the lot. The car is stolen again and the chase ensues, but this time the car is glowing bright green. So how about Lisa? I'll start with you.
Yeah, sorry, my neighbor just started their diesel truck.
Oh, it sounds good here. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So yeah, this was all pretty whirlwind because at this point it was pretty plot driven. You know, I loved all of the. Now we're bringing in the punks, you know, because they're involved in the whole thing. But the whole thing of like Malibu goes from this person to that person to that person to that person. I was just like, whoa, this is like crazy, and everybody just leaves their keys in their car. So
right.
I thought that was very funny, especially a car like that. And then the shootout. I love the quote. That's bullshit. You're a white suburban punk just like me. Yeah, but it still hurts. He said, the lights are growing dim, Otto. I know a life of crime has led me to this sorry fate, and yet I blame society. Society made me who I am. He's like, you're a white suburban punk just like me. And they're like, yeah, but it still hurts. Oh, he's dead. So, and then at that point, we get to the torture. He was kidnapped again and he was tortured. I can't remember. This goes so fast. And then he goes to the hospital, right?
Yep, hospital. Yeah.
If I can jump in, because we're
please.
skipping, I think one of my favorite scenes, and I know Jackie really liked it too, which was when Parnell is driving Otto around.
Yeah.
He's going on this monologue about like, do you ever feel as if your mind has started to erode?
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Yeah.
Oh, the poetry of this movie. And then he's talking about, you know, he has a quote, it's so immoral working on the thing that drives you mad. And I was like, that hits so hard. And that's just like all of us in like our jobs, our modern jobs or whatever.
And yet literally his mind is
a calling.
Yes.
He said that in that scene, it's more than just a job, it's a calling.
And do you ever see a neutron bomb? It kills people, but saves the property.
Buildings.
Right. Yeah, saves the buildings.
This is the repo code, right?
The repo code.
Be harmed.
And then, like, you know, I'm sure you guys know that, like, you know, after the atomic bomb, like, the people who worked on it suffered horrible depression and like suicidal tendencies, and it's just like, there's just layer after layer of this, and yeah, I just love it.
Nice. How about Jackie?
Yeah, there's definitely a statement about violence in this movie that was very solidified with me with the neutron bomb scene. That was very heartbreaking to me. And just the knowledge of that existing, I think, can warp our minds. But the shootout scene, I think scenes like that are really impactful, but this one I thought was very like significant in that just like it was almost Shakespearean in how all the men just killed each other.
Yeah.
And the people from different groups just killed each other, and like at the end of the day, what did we sacrifice our lives for? And these sort of like groups we've sort of like pledged our allegiance to, is it worth it in the end?
Right. Right. Anything else, Sarah, before we get to the final part? You covered it. I think
I do want to say one thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I do want to say one thing. Sorry. Debbie's outfit is killer. That bustier and that skirt. I was just like, that's what I wanted to look like when I was 14 years old. I mean, I couldn't have done the mohawk, but oh my God, sorry. I just have to call her out because I'm like, she's so hip. I love her. Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
that one
yeah.
was like,
Jeremy was like, oh, look at her outfit. I was like, what?
it was rad.
So
It was rad. It was
cool.
so anime. It was so
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And
Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
wanted to say something about the quote, like Lisa and I have been talking about. When Duke said, "Society made me what I am. You're a white suburban punk just like me." That's bullshit. Like that attitude that Otto has could go so far. Like I think of like today and how like a lot of white men think they are victims.
Mm-hmm.
And like this movie in 1984, this like 21-year-old kid had that mentality. And I think of like men, like grown men that can't have that mentality today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
it's funny because like I know guys I used to hang out with who would like mock me for like being less physically in shape or like less traditionally masculine, and like not knowing shit about cars. And now like those people are much less healthy and much less happy, and they are angry about it, and their beliefs have shifted to, but it's also like even that idea of like lost men, and it's like, how I'm not gonna be a repo man, then he becomes a repo man. Layla's on the run from the government, then she's working for the government. It's like,
Right.
it's all just whoever will accept us. Like
Right.
nobody has,
That's a good point.
everyone's
Yeah.
flexible. But anyway, I that's just what I thought of.
Yeah. I feel like all I'm
I
doing is
mean-
reading quotes that I've come across today.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jackie, before you figure your thought. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I also really try to have empathy for, young white men. And it is a
Absolutely.
conflict I have. And it's actually like reminded me a lot of my brother, and I wrote about that and like how the extent of my empathy, but like, is that returned? And it's just it got me thinking a lot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, hot take, get me canceled here, right? But it's like sometimes I feel like if there was like a difficulty setting, like in gamer terms, like straight white male might be a different difficulty setting, and a lot of people are claiming the game is too hard when their difficulty setting was started.
Well,
Okay, I don't know, maybe that's outdated. Maybe I'm the problem, I don't know.
I think the issue is people think that makes it so, like, people think that young white men just don't struggle. Like, it's just as difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they still struggle with all the things that make us human, of finding identity and meaning. And like, I think the problem is we went so far into like white men have it so easy that we forgot that they're like human with their own like
Human. Yeah, absolutely.
We dismissed all their pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Very well said.
We think about that a lot with my son. He's 17 years old, and my husband and I have had conversations about, automatically he's the white boy, so he's got things that are automatically thought about him that may not be true. And that's exactly what you're talking about, so yeah. Have empathy for everybody, kids.
My only two quotes for this before we go to the last part were also the mind eroding part, which I love too with Jeremy. But the hospital randomly, someone announced, "Please return the scalpel, Mr. Lee," which is amazing. For any explanation you can think of for that is amazing. But that, and then also stick with me, I'll make you a repo wife is another one I want to.
Amazing.
Right.
During the escape from the hospital, there's a door that says, hold on, wait, I wrote it down. The door has a paper taped to it, and it says, warning, guard inside, do not enter. And the security guard is napping inside that room because he does not want to do his job. So he put up a sign that says, don't bother the security guard.
Right.
Freaking life goals. That guy is my new hero.
It really is.
I also wrote down a quote, "No beer is needed here," but I didn't write down anything else.
Yeah, I feel like
I didn't remember what I was referring to.
I feel like some woman said that when he offered her beer, and she said no beer is needed here, but I might be wrong.
No beer is needed here.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. Okay, so final scene. I know Jeremy's got back-to-back podcasts here, so we'll move fast.
Fine. You didn't.
No, we're good. Okay. Eventually, the Malibu reappears at the Helping Hand lot with Bud behind the wheel, but he ends up being shot. The various groups trying to acquire the car soon show up: government agents, UFO scientists, and the televangelist. Anyone who approaches it bursts into flames, even those in flame-retardant suits. Only Miller, an eccentric mechanic at Helping Hand, who had explained earlier to Otto that aliens exist and can travel through time in their spaceships, can enter the car. He slides behind the wheel and beckons Otto into the Malibu. After Otto settles into the passenger seat, it lifts straight into the air. It flies away through the city's skyline, Miller telling Otto what Bud had said earlier: the life of a repo man is always intense.
We go together.
Yeah. All right, so Jeremy, we got to go to you. Say, what's your take?
Well, I mean, my mind is still reeling around the fact that the car was not special effects.
Yeah, I know.
So at the end of the movie, when the car goes full radioactive, those poor effing government agents who are trying to interact with the car, and they're getting shocked by lightning, and they're catching on fire, and the government just keeps sending wave after wave of their own men in there.
That's a statement.
And then the pastor shows up, and his Bible gets shot.
You said holy sheep shit or something like that?
Yeah. And then in walks Miller, who had one of the coolest speeches earlier in the movie about, I don't want to know how to drive, because the more you drive, the less smart you are. And Miller, the idiot savant, the cosmic, the cosmic lunatic, for lack of a better term, gets in the driver's seat, and Otto goes, wait, you don't know how to drive? And just, he gives him like a look. And then Otto gets in the car with him. And so, babe, I think this is your moment, right? This is what you wanted to talk about the most, with Miller and the cosmic ascension in the end of the movie.
I mean, I don't know if it's my moment, but
no pressure.
no, I just really loved the ending of how I think Miller's this angelic sorry. Miller's this angelic man, and he's drawn to Otto, who is this pure figure, and then transcending all the heavenly or all the earthly bullshit of every single group they encountered. There's something broken, like Sarah's just saying, the church is corrupt, the governments, they're just fumbling, they don't know. The repo men are latching on to this romanticized past. The punks are these suburban white punks that the rebellion is actually meaningless. Even just the aliens themselves, is that meaningless? When everything is sort of a joke, can you transcend it and sort of reach this peace of not finding an answer,
But also, though, Sarah's been mentioning the religious connections to the whole movie, and in this final act, when they barge into the room, and Parnell, who was the one who knew the secret about the Malibu all along, he's not in the hospital room anymore. And at that moment, when he's missing from the hospital room, Sarah, the televangelist on the TV in the room says, he is risen. Right?
Ooh.
Did you notice that? Jesus missing from the tomb or whatever, the crypt. and then like this ascension. So like I don't know, Sarah, did you also think the ending was sort of, I mean, I guess it was pretty on the nose almost.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that I really liked that the end of the movie was the treasure that was found was this new world that everyone was hoping for to try, that everyone was hoping to get to by paying the televangelist or by, you know what I mean, by dietetics or diuretics or whatever that could only be achieved outside all of our earthly systems and ways. Like all of that, like, what did you call it, Jackie? All our earthly bullshit just gets left behind. I liked it so much because I think another ending for this movie could be they won the Malibu. And then he has a great job as a repo man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of 80s movies did end that way, right? Like, I was listening to, I think it was a podcast where they were discussing Back to the Future and how they had originally different endings, but the audiences in the 80s really liked the very materialistic ending where Marty gets the 4x4
And the
at
girl.
the end, you know, and their family is more wealthy. And like, I think there's a version of this movie where he just gets a good job out of it, right? He gets this good career as a repo man, but this is not that movie, and I love that it's not that movie.
Yeah.
Well, and can I just say one last thing and then I'll shut up, I promise.
No, of course. Yeah.
This, the lattice of coincidence. Do you know what was in the news yesterday?
Uh-oh.
It was, don't be alarmed about the low-flying vehicles over LA because they're surveillance planes.
Mm.
And as we're watching that, the car is flying over LA. And then did you guys catch that the credits scrolled down instead of up?
No, I didn't notice that, huh?
No.
Once you see it, Lisa, you'll never unsee it. The credits scrolled the opposite direction that we're all used to. And it was the most disorienting thing.
Gosh.
And it's
That's
just
crazy.
the chef kiss end of this movie.
Yeah. I also love the fact that the relationship with, what's the main girl, the girlfriend's name, where she comes up
Layla.
to him. It's like, what about our relationship? Fuck that.
Yeah, but even she was kind of like not really bothered.
But yes, he didn't get the girl. He didn't get the job. He didn't get the car. The car that they were chasing the whole time, like, he didn't get it. Well, I mean, I guess he did. He flew away in it. But, like,
Yeah.
he didn't possess it and get the money for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about Lisa? What's your take on the end?
I liked how it kind of wrapped it up. I think slightly neat, as you don't really understand what's happening other than they're ascending and they're free, and Miller was the only one who actually could approach the car and open it and get in the driver's seat, and then he anointed Otto and said, come on in, I want you with me, dude. And I thought that he was the cosmic spiritualist of the group. Miller was, even though he said a couple of weird things, but Otto was like, did you do a lot of acid in the 60s too? And I'm like, yes he did. Yes he did, and that's why he's like that. Yeah, I just thought it was a really fun, nice end to a movie where he's like, nope, I'm just going to go on. I'm going to be my own person, and I'm going to choose to go up wherever we're going in this car, whatever happens. And yeah, there you go. I loved it.
See, I thought Miller was supposed to have like knowledge beyond. Like, I didn't see him as like a mentally unstable.
Sure.
Like, I thought he was supposed to be like
too much for this world.
Yes, exactly. Too much for this world. His wisdom is so far beyond what like we can understand. That like he's making sense, but he's not.
Yeah.
To us,
It only makes sense if you can dial into what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
It's frequency or whatever. Yeah, totally. What okay, best and worst parts. Quickly. Jeremy, what's your take? Best and worst.
Oh, best and I mean, I'm just a simp for this movie, you guys. Like, I know we'll get to my score in a second. So
we should give scores too when we do best and worst.
Okay, let's do best and worst.
Let's
That's a good idea.
Actually, think about it for a second. I'll read a couple reviews.
Oh yes,
quotes
please.
before we do that. Okay, so it actually garnered widespread praise upon its release and is widely considered to be one of the best films of 1984. In 2008, it was voted by a group of LA Times writers and editors as the 8th best film set in LA of the past 25 years. Roger Ebert gave this film 3 out of possible 4 stars and said, I saw Repo Man near the end of a busy stretch on the movie beat. 3 days during which I saw more relentlessly bad movies than any comparable period in memory. Most of those bad movies were so cynically constructed out of formula ideas and commercial ingredients that watching them was an ordeal. Repo Man comes out of left field, has no big stars, didn't cost much, takes chances, dares to be unconventional, is funny, and works. There's a lesson here. The Rotten Tomatoes aggregator gives the film a 98% approval rating, which is crazy. The site's critical consensus reads, Repo Man is many things: an alien invasion film, a punk rock musical, a send-up of consumerism. One thing it isn't is boring. And this one Rotten Tomatoes critic roundup ends it with, just like neon and ranting and ill intentions, I couldn't enjoy this movie anymore if I put it on a plate. All right, so let's go to Jeremy for best and worst and your score. And while you're there, remind the audience what the Strauss score is.
Strauss scale, created during the pandemic for Zoom movie watching. A 5 is you don't regret watching it. So anything below a 5 means you regret watching it, and anything above a 5, why don't you regret it, and just follow your heart from there. Best scene, just because I never got a chance to talk about it, was the criminals, the punks running down the alley, and the most intimidating one of the bunch goes to the homeless man and looks at him and then shakes his hand and runs away.
Shakes his hand.
And I was just like, yes, you are the only people who are treating you. No one else even sees this man, and that's that moment is this whole movie. Worst moment, I guess. It's at some point, it got kind of hard to follow what was happening because of all the different car swaps and different cast of characters. So I'll just call it the jumble towards the end of the movie. What did I give Repo Man? Or not Repo Man. What did I give Brazil? Anyone remember? It was a 9 or a 10. I know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have to go check.
I don't remember.
I really, really love this movie. I can't think of a single thing I'd change about it, because even the parts that were kind of bad, it's almost like the exact opposite way I feel about Pink Flamingos.
Yes.
Where it's like Pink Flamingos, it was like, oh, it's supposed to be sloppy and this is like the sloppiness. It's a 10, guys. It's a 10. It's
Wow.
a new fame. I love
Came
this
in.
movie.
Amazing. All right, how about Lisa?
I think best part for me, it's just like Jeremy said, it's all the parts with the punks, especially towards the end as they're really getting off and running on their crime spree, and Debbie looks so awesome, and the shaking of the hand. I just loved all of that. And I think the worst part for me was, and I just didn't really quite get, because I was like, why is Layla working for them now when they were torturing Otto with electric I guess shocks, and I was like, what the heck? Thank God that stopped really quickly. They came into the rescue for him, but that was definitely my worst part. And that's where it was getting convoluted, like you were saying. So, and I think my score, I'm pretty sure, is a 9.
9, nice. How about Jackie?
Yeah. So I think there isn't one part of this that is my favorite, but this movie was rare for me in that it combined very poetic symbolism, which I'm an English teacher. I love symbolism. I love analysis. So that was very engaging for me, but also not just one piece of social commentary, but multiple, there was so much depth of and there were so many layers of social commentary that I found really compelling and prescient and relevant and just very engaging for me. It just got me to think of things in different ways, which I think a lot of films today lack the bravery to really confront what's happening in our society. They may allude to Trump, they may allude to something, or they may do it in a very, very I don't know, in a Marvel way where it's very artificial. That's
a safe way that's not gonna offend any sponsors.
Right.
Yes. Very safe. And I think that we should have movies that are as brave as this one in really confronting society, because I'm realizing I'm searching for these things from decades ago instead of where are the artists today making them. But I do agree there was like jumbling towards the end, but like I don't think that took away from what I really loved about it. So I would give it a 10 as well.
Yeah, that's right, boo. That's my boo. She gets it.
All right. How about Sarah?
I think the best stuff was like probably like just the overall themes, kind of like Jackie was saying. Like I really liked the religion. I really liked the tackling of all these themes. I do think some of the things that they were trying to say got jumbled because they were trying to say so much, and again, I was really confused at the end with everything. So I actually didn't like the punks that much. I didn't think they added that much to the movie. I liked some of their lines, but honestly, without them, I thought the movie still said most of what it wanted to say. I thought it was kind of throwing this disaffected youth thing in. But I thought Amelia was already supposed to kind of represent that. So I kind of felt like we didn't need them, but they were lovable, right? They were like lovable doofus characters. I just didn't understand why they were in it. And so I'm giving the film like an 8 because I think for all of its themes, I loved it. I think it was just a little sloppy in the execution. Maybe a 9. I say I'm between an 8 and a 9. Again, because it's like all of the themes and stuff I really liked, but I think there's a better version of this movie that could exist with
And it
different
stars
editing.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Emilio's character.
Sorry, that's just. But I did think, Jeremy. My thought was like I feel like about this one how I feel about Brazil, which is like I really liked it, loved all the themes. There was some stuff I thought could have been like done a little bit better. But, yeah.
Yeah, I
and
think
to go to Sarah's point, like I think if like I was exposed to more movies like this, maybe I would rate it lower.
Sure.
Like
you're like starved.
Yes, because I'm like crazy movies like this in Brazil. I'm just so happy to like experience it. I'm like 10, but maybe like
Yeah, totally. I liked I thought best this Michael Jackson glove was the best, both the best and worst. Terrible and also amazing that they would just push through with that. And then I kind of agree on some of the disorienting kind of messy stuff towards the end, but the trash barrel scene's existence alone is amazing that it even happened, like, and just was just put in the movie, like it was like 5 minutes of just like a constant monologue. It was amazing. So yeah, I think I would say a 9 as well for me. Like it may have been an 8 because of the messiness, but some of the weirdness and the quotability also pushed it up to a 9. But yeah, for sure, I'm a big fan of it. Okay, so while we head out, let's see where else we can find anyone here if you want to be found. How about Lisa? Anything to plug this time? Maybe this is
not this time. I'm getting there. I'm working too hard, dude. You know. So you can find me right here on streamteam.club.
I love it. How about Sarah? Nothing? She's out. Okay. How very humble. Jackie.
All right. So my life without Instagram is so much better. So even though apparently Substack is also problematic, I am going to try and post on Substack. Just look up Jackie Burton, and I will probably post an essay that loosely connects to this movie, and that connects to my brother I've been having issues with because he's like a conspiracy theorist, and it connects to that. So it's like part memoir, part like bringing in this movie.
Nice. When it goes live, tell us. We'll link to it from this replay. So for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I am at different places, but this time I'll plug my roundup of Trump idiocy for the week, which is vitaminchaos.com. Check it out if you want to sign up. Jeremy, how about you? Take us out.
Well, like I said, I am Jeremy, aka JMO of theoldswitcheroo.com. We review old video games, and Sarah and Kyle and Jackie have been on talking about Mario Party. And Lisa, one day, maybe. I don't know if you have a passion
Yeah,
for all video
sure.
games. Yay, that'd be fun.
There you go.
Season 3 or season 4, I mean, is gonna have Lisa on it. That's gonna be dope. So yeah, check us out. It's a fun time. And thanks again for having us, Kyle. I love these. And
Yes, thank you.
It was a great selection.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for coming. We will figure out what we're going to do the next one, and we will share it. Oh, sorry. I was like, what is Jackie saying? Okay.
Oh,
We're just
sorry. I
teasing.
just said thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, perfect. All right. We'll see everyone next time. Have a good
Have
one.
fun ascending, everybody.
Bye.